I'm Amanda and you're watching Swell Entertainment. So, you wanted a video intro. I've just watched part 8 and I've got more than a couple of notes. Alyssa's part brought up a lot of interesting things. So did Jake's final interview. As I said previously, I'm not a fan of Team 10. I wasn't aware Team 10 was a goddamn thing. I was aware of the Pauls on Vine. I was aware of Alissa Violet online. That was pretty much it. It really wasn't until the interview with the news van, where Jake Paul got on the news van, when I heard what Team 10 was, and I was like, this sounds stupid. This guy is an idiot. And then I kind of got sucked into the world of Team 10 and looking into the scandal. I think that was after Alissa had put out her video. Also, I was gonna bring up a bunch of other stuff, like Shane didn't bring up X, Y, and Z. I decided not to do that for this video solely because there's so much that was kind of touched on in this video, but was not gone deeper into in a level that it should have. So that's what I'm choosing to focus on for this. When I was looking into Team 10 and the whole Jalissa thing and the breakup and all that, everything that I found, it was pretty much like quantifying like, oh, but we're not together. Though they were acting like they were dating, they always kind of quantified it like, oh, she's my best friend. Jake would make comments like, oh, we look like siblings, which is weird. I was always kind of like, were they dating? And then Alyssa's interview came out and she says it was never official, tried to get him to define the relationship. We found out quite a lot from Alyssa's interview. You know what? I have notes. I'm gonna go in order. Again, my point from the last video, I still stand that a lot of what we've seen could have been cut out. A good deal of part 6 was a vlog. If Shane had set this up like his Jeffree Star series, I would have had no problem seeing that side of Jake Paul, where they like go and they're talking about like, oh yeah, we're gonna go get tents at Walmart, and then, oh, the car's not starting, oh, he's being a nice person. But then it's like the entire time we're going back and forth with him and Katie, and it's like I feel like we're getting away from the point of this, which is trying to get a deeper understanding of Jake Paul. Watching a therapist secretly watch him, and it's just hard to watch because I'm like, this is unethical as fuck in my fucking opinion. The whole sociopath path, it didn't need to happen. By the end of the final episode, I was like, we literally could have took out all of that sociopath stuff and it would have, one, cut the videos down significantly, but also you would have had more of a coherent story, in my opinion. So let's start with Ep 6. They go more into the Meg Zelly situation. In the documentary, Erica is like, oh, she called me and she's like, this guy, blah, blah, blah. In the original video, my assistant was assaulted, they make it abundantly clear that she basically knew it was Banks before she even walked up to the table because she saw him kissing other girls, but she was confused because it's like, no, it can't be him because he's dating Alissa. They talk about the police report, they say that was real, but in Logan's vlog, where Logan's corroborating Jake's and Meg's story, she supposedly hands him the copy of the police report and it has 3 hole punches in it. To my knowledge, typically police reports don't have 3 hole punches in them. The Max Beaumont thing, for those of you who don't know, Max Beaumont is the friend they're referring to in the docu-series. He was interviewed on Dramaalert during the situation. He was interviewed by FaZe Banks during the situation. There was a suspicion that maybe he had drugged Banks. Max came forward, basically told his side of the story, but he said, I'm friends with Meg. I was working with Team 10. He claims that he was working as an app designer or something. He was working to develop apps for Team 10. And instead of being paid, he was given a $50 a day stipend. That he was at Warwick with Meg and some other people, went by the table, bumped into Banks and said hi, whatever, and that they were nice and friendly, no big deal, and that he'd come back to the table. Then Meg was at the table and said, oh yeah, he assaulted me, and showed a huge bruise on her neck that night at Warwick. I don't want to go into this, but I feel like I have to. When I was assaulted, the person didn't clothesline me or put their arm around my neck the way that Meg is saying that Banks did. What they did is they straight up grabbed me around my neck and put their thumb into my neck and it dragged me towards them, including their hand on my arm. Part of the fucking reason I wasn't able to get a restraining order was because I didn't have any marks on me after that. I called the police immediately. They were like, you can press charges, you can do X, Y, and Z. Because of the situation that I was in, I made the decision to go to court the next day and try and get a restraining order. And that was the next day. I did not have any bruises the next day. Yes, it's hard for me to believe that someone clotheslining you, even a full-grown fucking dude, leaves that type of bruise. Everyone's skin is different, everyone bruises differently. I bruise fairly fucking easy. But you know what sure as shit wouldn't have happened? You wouldn't have gotten a bruise the same fucking night. Within an hour. Also, Jake refers to Max as like, oh, Meg's friend. They don't mention that he was working for Team 10 at the time. You also made a diss track later after that where you're talking about like, yeah, my brother did kiss my girl. There's a line in that rap that also says something along the lines of, yeah, Max did me dirty, cried like a bitch because I called him family. That he's Meg's friend. Okay. So either he was a bigger deal to you than you were thought, or you were just trying to make it a bigger deal. Or it's the whole us versus them again. So he did me dirty, I'm gonna make a song about it, and then now we're never gonna speak of this fuck again. I don't think that him making the video was thirsty. I think it was fucking disgusting, the fact that he took a video about a very serious topic, titled it with the same serious topic, had very serious claims in this video, and still sandwiched it amongst other fucking vlog footage. I know I mentioned this in the last video, but holy fuck. The fake cop comment. The thing with the fake cop, the reason people thought your cop was fake, Jake, is because the cop from the back looks exactly like one of the cops in your I'm getting arrested video. You know, the fake I'm getting arrested video. Just so you guys know, not everything you see in the media is real. Sometimes things are dramatic and fake. They mention the Fox News interview, but they don't go into it. Did Fox News reach out to them and were like, hey, we want to give you coverage, do you want to come on the radio, do you want to come on the news? You'll be on TV, you can discuss your platform. Or did one of them, did Meg or Erica reach out and be like, hey, this thing happened, we're trying to bring awareness to it? And why was Erica involved in that interview? Yeah, eventually they made videos on Erica's channel, but it was Meg who was assaulted supposedly. Jake who made the original video that went around. I just think Erica got off really easy with this whole series, the Alissa Violet portion. She confirmed the question that I had originally had was, were they just not actually dating? Alissa says that her and Jake were hooking up, but they were never actually dating. Trying not to go into summary, but I feel like I kind of have to. And so we found out that Jake and Logan realized that their videos did better when Alissa was in the thumbnail. That made me make a realization with something else, but I'll come back to that. So she claims that like a lot of their content where it's like stealing my boyfriend's girl, and I'm sorry. I know people like use that as evidence that they were sleeping together. When you watch those videos, they're clearly joking. Like it's clearly a joke, and yeah, some of his comments are gross. Clearly a joke, you know? I think that Shane not doing a follow-up interview with Jake was a mistake, because there's a lot of things that got brought up in the Alissa Violet interview that I would love to hear fucking Jake's opinion on. I want to hear Jake try and defend the supposed casting couch thing, where Alissa claimed that her and Jake would hook up, and then she would go and work or go and hang out with a friend and then come back to be like, hey, what's up? Like, come back to the room, and then he'd be fucking some Instagram model. She claims that Jake would invite Instagram models over like, hey, we're casting for Team 10, come over, we'll see if you're a fit, and then he would end up hooking up with them, and then they'd never be a part of Team 10, which is so fucking exploitative. It's fucking disgusting. The Jake interview happened before the Alissa interview, and we got confirmation for this. In the Alissa interview, Shane is referring to some of the stuff that him and Jake had talked about. I found Alissa to be very credible, but then watching Jake's interview, some of it I'm like, this seems credible, but he's also not. He's holding back on certain facts. Jake is very open about certain concepts, but then other concepts he's like leaning back, he's covering his mouth, he's like brushing it over to go on to the next thing. Something that always bothered me about Jake's claims, like Alissa cheated on me, and then when Alissa came forward and said, yes, like, yeah, I did something shitty, but he cheated on me repeatedly, consistently, I was into him, he fucking hurt me. To my knowledge, again, correct me if I'm fucking wrong and I'm just missing something, Jake never denied that he was cheating on Alissa. He just like brushes over it. And then in the interview today, he says that they were dating off and on, and that when they were off is when he would hook up with other girls. I think Shane should have done a follow-up interview with Jake and been like, hey, there's more stuff I want to talk to you about. The money thing. Alissa says that she tried to get access to her money and that she would only get like $1,000, $2,000 when she was owed like $12,000 or whatever. Where's the rest of my money? I want to buy a car, I want to get an apartment so I can, you know, start branching out from this. She said they were like, oh, you can't deal with your money, you can't handle your money. And then when she left, she eventually got her money, but it took her a long time to get it. The Martinez twins, one of the issues that they bring up, which again, was skipped over in this fucking interview. I'm sorry, it pissed me off that this was skipped over, but I'll come back to that. Jake and Erica admit they've been officially dating for 4 months. So again, my point of like, you were originally fake, maybe it turned into something real. They claim they've officially been dating for 4 months. Erica admits she couldn't stand him when she was working as his assistant, which does kind of corroborate Alissa's claims in Banks' like explanation video of like, I didn't assault this girl, here's my side of things. They bring in Alissa and Alissa talks about Erica and Jake and all this stuff, and Alissa talks about how Erica, when Alissa and Jake were doing their thing or whatever, Erica would be like, I'm so sick of Jake right now. He's like the most racist, rude piece of shit or whatever the fuck. Like, that kind of corroborates the situation because she said, like, you couldn't fucking stand the guy. Jake interview. Look, I like Shane. I like his content. I think he seems like a genuinely sweet guy. But he also really wants to be everyone's friend and he wants everyone to get along, which isn't a bad thing. But for this type of journalism that I guess he's trying to get into, this investigative style of journalism, you have to be able to be impartial and you have to be able to set your personal feelings aside for a lot of this. The way that Shane kept cutting off the camera and having personal conversations, that shouldn't have happened. Either cut the camera and cut that whole section out. There's no point to like, hey, we were talking off camera, we talked about some important shit. Don't tell us that. Shane wants to be everyone's friend. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But when you're interviewing someone, that shouldn't be your goal to be their best friend when you're trying to do like an investigative style of interview. Shane isn't a journalist. I think he has a lot of potential with videos like these. I hope that none of this deters him from making more content in the future. But I think that he needs to realize that with this series he bit off more than he can chew. There's a lot of shit in this. A lot of it's amazing. But the content, God, I'm gonna fuck up how to explain this. I don't know how to explain this. I don't want some of the backlash he's getting from this to turn into Shane not wanting to make more series like this. That's not what I want. I want him to look at this series and look at, okay, we did this good, we did this good. Some of these things we did very bad on. We made this mistake. We didn't do this right. And I want him to learn from those and take that to his next series. He has such a fucking platform right now to literally do whatever he wants. And I think it's great that he wants to turn it into like a serious style of journalism type of thing. But there's certain standards that need to come with that. Again, I think his research was lacking. Maybe he needs to have someone behind the scenes doing his research for him or like corroborating his research and being like, hey, I found this. I just think he needs to bring someone in to be solely devoted to the research. Oh god, I don't even know if that would help because it's still not going to change the fact that he's a very nice guy and he wants to be everyone's friend and he doesn't want to upset anyone or cause any drama. But I mean, when you're doing a series like this where you're, again, I don't agree with this, but like where you're analyzing whether or not someone's a sociopath, you're going to get into sensitive topics. You're going to get into upsetting topics and you need to be able to deal with those topics and follow those threads. If you're going to do an investigative journalistic style of movie content, whatever the fuck, you need to be comfortable with finding a thread and fucking yanking on it. And I don't think Shane is capable of doing that. He doesn't want to upset people. Fuck, I'm getting worked up. I'm sorry. The Martinez Twins situation, based on what Alissa said, most of the time he would tell me how he was gonna wake me up. Sometimes he didn't. Again, we don't know if he told that to Martinez Twins, but we have to kind of look at the fact that maybe he did do that and that is the case. Jake blames the language barrier for a lot of the issues with the Martinez Twins. In their video, they claim that they had told Team 10, we're working in America, we want to get better at English. Can we hire a tutor? Someone, can you get us a tutor? Someone to help us get better at English. And they claimed that Team 10 and Jake had denied them that. But again, that's a claim that wasn't addressed. Yeah, I basically taught them English. They also said they wanted someone who was actually qualified to teach English, and you guys denied them. We didn't talk about that. I made the decision not to bring up the racism comment in the last one. I felt the money comments were more important. I kind of have an issue with Shane essentially explaining away Jake's comments. Regardless of what Shane thinks, that's not Shane's job in this situation, is to give him an out for his behavior. The money thing. Jake does acknowledge, like, yeah, when I first met them, they didn't have a lot of money. Their mom was very poor. They don't go into the whole, they said we couldn't have access to our money because we didn't have visas. Alyssa's comment about like her not getting access to her money, in my opinion, strengthens their argument because they did it to her too. For them it was, oh, you can't have a bank account because you don't have visas. For Alissa it was, you can't have access to your money because you're irresponsible with it. I'm seeing a fucking trend. At the end of Jake's interview, he makes the comment like, oh yeah, his old business teams were stealing money. Alyssa's comment was that they said, or Team 10 said. So that does imply that the business side of things was fucking with it. Was there actually a money issue? And then it's like everyone's talking about it individually, but they're not bringing it together. The Martinez Twins brought it up. I haven't watched their video in a while, but I'm not sure if they said they or Jake. They told us you guys can't have a bank account because you don't have visas. There was a trend with the money issue, with Jake, the Martinez Twins, with Alissa. The way that the Martinez situation played out, it looks so fucking disgusting because this is Jake going to another country, finding these kids, saying that, oh, I see potential in these guys, bringing them into a country where they know very little of the language, where they don't know anybody yet, and then to turn around and say, oh no, we won't get you a tutor. You can't have access to your money, and basically manipulating them and saying like, oh, they don't know better, so we'll just say they can't have their money because they don't have access to bank accounts. I don't know if this is true. I'm taking their word for it because because Jake's not fucking denying it. He's not talking about it. He's talking about the bullying comments. He's not talking about the money comment. He's not talking about the fact that they claimed he denied them the right to get an English tutor. So I have to go off the one version that we have, which is the Martinez twins. Those two things, the money, the English tutor, trying to make it so that they are able to live and function in this country independently from Team 10. It seems like you are deliberately trying to cut them off. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This sounds like a fucking cult. Next. So I watched the Nerd City video when it came out. There's not much to touch on. I'm like, oh, what wasn't covered? Jake's overall, like, oh, it's fucking stupid if you think that I'm manipulating kids. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at any of the old videos from the Hollywood Fix from outside your fucking house. How those kids act. How those kids act about others. To them, you are their fucking god. They are in your fucking cult and you are trying to get them to buy your Kool-Aid merch. You told these fucking kids, hey, go put Jake Paul /Fanjoy on fucking classrooms to sell your fucking merch. And then kids are like, hey, I got in trouble, but I did it. I vehemently disagree with the comment that Jake does not realize what he's doing. Alissa made the comment they realized their videos did better if I was in the thumbnail. I think Jake is very business-minded based on some of the stuff that we've seen. If you think that Jake didn't notice a fucking huge spike in his fucking merch sales every time that he brought up merch in the fucking videos, I think it's foolish for you to think that we think that you don't realize what you're doing. Or that you're that, like, that's fucking stupid if anyone thinks I'm manipulating children. You're an idiot. So Jake claims that him and Alissa were dating off and on. He kind of says things and then pulls back. So he'll like give a lot of information and then when there's something he clearly doesn't want to go into detail about, he'll like pull back a little bit. He starts saying like, she wanted to make me feel how I made her feel. But he changes it to how she felt. In my opinion, he's trying to pull himself back from responsibility for how she was fucking feeling. We were hooking up with other people when we were off. Like she was doing it too. I really just think this whole series was too much for Shane to handle. When Shane is talking to Jake and Shane really acknowledges like, his brother did this to him, Shane genuinely starts panicking. Like he starts getting worked up. He's not mentally prepared for some of the shit in people's lives. This was something dark and this was something upsetting and this is something hurtful. I just really wish that Shane would have done a follow-up interview. It doesn't look like Shane gave this interview as like, oh, the big finale, here's all the tea. Think of this series as like 5-paragraph argumentative essay. It's usually 5 paragraphs, but let's make it an 8-paragraph argumentative essay. You have your intro where you state your point. Granted, this paper may have gotten off thesis a little bit. Is he a sociopath? But the main argument is Jake Paul isn't who he portrays himself to be online. He's a good dude. Watching the content, that's what I feel we're being sold. You've got all the different paragraphs agreeing with him. And then typically, before your concluding paragraph, you have a paragraph. That's the counter argument. Now, if you disagree with me, you'll see X, Y, and Z. This person believes this. And then you try and argue back to that. What we got instead was the Alissa Violet interview. If you look at Twitter and people's responses to it, people were like, you know, I was kind of feeling bad for Jake Paul, and then I watched that interview. It's kind of a piece of shit. But then we get the concluding paragraph, which is once again like, yeah, Jake Paul's done some shit, but he feels bad, and he wants to be better, and his dad is manipulative, and his brother is an asshole. I'm not saying any of those things are false. Whether Shane realizes what he's doing or not, and he just wanted that final interview with Jake to be the final interview, watching it, I'm like, I know what's happening, and it's making me mad. Overall, I think Shane put way too much of his own feelings into this interview. As far as investigative journalism goes, I think he bit off more than he can chew right out of the gate. Personal fucking opinion. I don't think Jake Paul is a sociopath. I don't. Again, I think that whole bit should have been cut out. I do think that he is fostering cult-like mentality. It's very us versus them. I think the comment that Shane has been making, like, this is for entertainment. You started out with a very serious topic, which was trying to diagnose someone with psychopathy. You can't use that for entertainment. True crime documentaries, those are for entertainment too, but they're also super fucking informative. They have qualified investigators, they have first-hand accounts, which you do, you have quite a few of that, a lot of conflicting ones, but you have first-hand accounts, multiple experts in the fields that they are discussing. Again, I think a lot of this could have been cut out. I think what you and Andrew accomplished, editing-wise and filming-wise, is incredible. I think it's a lot. If I were to sit here and just ignore everything I know about the facts, all the drama surrounding all these people, I could watch this docu-series and be fairly entertained. With investigative journalism, there has to be the topic of finding the truth. You can't just report on things and then treat this like it's investigative journalism, because that's not the same thing. Also, I want to say this. I'm not doubting that Jake has been through some shit. I'm saying that everyone's been through some shit, and it does not give you a right to be a piece of shit. My parents were divorced. I went back and forth through middle school and high school until I moved out of an abusive fucking home when I was 17. And I still go out of my way to make sure I'm not an asshole. Like Andrew said in Nick Compton's episode, it's not even just like, oh, it's other people. There's evidence of Jake just not being a good person. Maybe he's gonna change from this. I do not think he deserves a fresh start. But if he does learn from this and his content does change, and he does start treating his team better, if he does change the way the Team 10 is run, if he does change the way that he reacts with acts with fans, if he does change the way that he peddles his fucking merch. Look, I hope Alissa, all of them, Banks, I hope this puts the Banks thing to rest. I hope this puts the Alissa Jake thing to rest. Time will tell if Jake will actually learn from this experience with Shane. Because what we're already seeing is Jake still being a shady bitch on Twitter. So is it a subtweet if we know exactly what you're talking about? Shane's trying to help you at his own detriment, and you're making it difficult. Yeah, that's it. I'm sure I left stuff out. There's a lot of stuff I didn't go into in this. If I were to sit here and go through a whole long list of Jake's transgressions, this video would be 4 hours long. I'm done talking about this series, barring someone involved in this, like hitting some fan with a car or something. I'm not gonna make another video on this, most likely. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. If you want to follow me on social media, all my stuff will be linked down below. Some of the receipts that I talked about in this video are also in the last video. Is there anything that you wanted covered in this doc that wasn't covered that I haven't talked about? Were there any points in the documentary that you were like, why are we just ignoring that? Or are there any other influencers or people on the internet that you want to see Shane do a docu-series on? Comment down below. If I go into all of my thoughts about this series, this video is going to be 6 hours long. So I'm just going to sign off now. Peace out. Rock on. Sleep tight.